All right, everyone. So we're on the road right now to Spider-Man No Way Home coming out in December. And I wanted to discuss these brand new 4chan leaks that came out, I believe yesterday. It says 11/10. Actually, that's today. I'm recording this on Wednesday, but the video will be up on Thursday. And we're going to be talking about some of these. Now, this is from 4chan. Anybody can post anything they want on 4chan, so this does not confirm these are real. Of course, take this with a grain of salt. We're going to talk about some of this here today on this video. There's a lot of stuff here about what happens to the characters in the film. Some of it actually does coincide with what we've been hearing officially from sources within the company. Like, for example, things that Tom Holland has said. A lot of them do go with this, but also Tom Holland said that Toby and Andrew are not in the movie, and we all know that they are. So again, it's one of those things where who do you believe? Who do you believe? But like I always say when it comes to 4chan, take this with a grain of salt. This may be true, this may not be true. So I'm going to go in and discuss this. Apparently, this source claims to have seen an early version of the film, and I'm going to go ahead and go to his answer. So, one of the things he talks about here, I want to talk about a couple things here that does kind of make sense of what we've heard. He talks about how again, we're going to go into it now, okay? So you've been warned. If you don't want to get spoiled, if you don't want to take any chances, check out the video. Here we go. He says that Green Goblin looks really cool, and so does Octavius, but he kind of hates the iron tentacles. Sandman and Lizard are basically the exact same. Electro is a bit different. He's able to interchange between his human form and the electric form. And human form, just like Jamie Foxx. I'm mixed on the yellow, though, to get cool at times. Other times, like Thor's taking a piss. Kirsten Dunst is in the movie. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. The mid-credit scene is Venom. So we're gonna go. I already read through this, so I'm gonna go into what he says. He says that at some point in the film, Spider-Man does face off against Doc Ock, but this is the Spider-Man from the Tom Holland Spider-Man, and he uses the Iron Spider suit, but Doc Ock destroys it. Like with the tentacles, Doc Ock just destroys it. So that's gonna be a cool scene. And at some point in the movie, what happens is he goes into it here. I'll actually show y'all. Um, Hang on here. Let me get to the part because there's a lot of information here, guys, and it's all kind of scattered because it is, 4chan. But he talks about how, um, right here, the Iron Spider suit gets ripped to shreds during the bridge scene with Doc Ock and doesn't make a comeback. He almost kills Goblin single-handedly. So one of the things he talks about here in this leak is that Ned, Aunt May, and Happy Hogan all die. They all get killed. Now, we've heard that this movie is very dark, and that there was also other sources saying that Peter, Tom Holland's Peter, actually suffers a lot in this movie. So if Aunt May's gonna die, that is a huge deal. I can't imagine them killing off Ned Leeds, but apparently it's gonna happen, and they're gonna kind of go in a different direction after this. And then that ends up leading to Holland Spider-Man almost killing Green Goblin. They talk about how the Green Goblin is the main villain out of the five. There's five villains: Lizard, Electro, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and Sandman. And the Green Goblin is the one they put the most heat on because they want you to hate him by the end of the film. It says here, look, the question is, how big are the roles of previous spiders? Do the main characters just have cameos? There are main characters coming in during the second act, and Andrew's introduced about 20 minutes before we see Toby. So that I've heard too, that's going to be in the second act. He talks about who says the great power line. So Aunt May early in the movie tells Peter, with great power comes great responsibility, before she dies. And Toby says it at the end of the film. The movie, according to this leaker, the movie ends with Toby going back to the Raimi verse, and there we actually see Kirsten Dunst with a baby, so he gets to live happily ever after. In the movie, it's been 20 years, he's older. He is what is referred to as Spider Dad by Tom Holland, so that's kind of cool. It says here right? They ask him, did Toby and Andrew have distinct fighting, swinging styles from Tom, or are they just essentially acting the same but in different outfits? Can you quote any quips Toby or Andrew have while wearing the mask? He says, Toby and Andrew's fighting and swinging styles are very faithful to their respective movies. So they're going to fight like they did in their movies, not just in this movie. Um, Describe the Venom scene. So this is the scene in the mid-credit scene. Peter's getting scolded by Jameson over something at the Daily Bugle. We see him filling out a job application during the epilogue. This is in the mid-credit scene. Then someone comes in and we hear a voice off camera say, "Hey, Peter," and it reveals to be Eddie. So Eddie Brock from Venom, Tom Hardy, is going to have a job at the Daily Bugle. We've been hearing reports that Venom is coming into the MCU and that the next Venom film will be co-produced by Marvel Studios. And Morbius is going to come into the MCU at some point. That's all been discussed. This is not just here. This has been discussed for a while now. So again, if this leaker is accurate, he definitely has been following the leaks, or he's either been following the information, is weaving a story to go around it, or he's full of shit. I heard that Toby dies in the film, but that was months ago, and that could also be bullshit because, as you know, the closer we get to the movie, the more legitimate some of these leaks appear to be because people working on the film start to talk. You know what I mean? So, um, let's see here. So he says Daredevil looks at the suit. So basically, Matt Murdock is in the film. He does represent Peter. He does get him off the trial for the murder of Mysterio, but people still think that he killed him. In fact, at one point in the movie, he gets denied entry into MIT because people think that he killed him. So he has to go to Doctor Strange to make the spell. And so the movie, apparently the end credit scene is Matt Murdock opens up his closet and the Daredevil suit is there, teasing Daredevil's coming into the MCU finally. That's very exciting. Let's see. This is funny to me. Somebody asked, they wouldn't kill off the fat sidekick. Sort of. Tom points at Andrew when they initially meet and asks, "Are you me?" All of the villains are dead at the end. Surprisingly, Dark Lizard looks the same. So all the villains do die. I thought I had heard that Norman Osborn would be sticking around, but I guess all the villains die. So there you go. Something else too. Apparently, the way this is gonna work is that I'm telling you this off of memory because I already read most of this. Basically, what happens is Tom Holland Spider-Man goes to Strange and says, "I need you to create a spell to wipe everybody's memory." And Strange says the only way he can do that is to tap into the multiverse and find alternate timelines and universes where people don't know your identity. He can use that power to cast a spell. But Tom ruins the spell, and that's why we have the villains and coming into the main MCU timeline. Then at one point, Doctor Strange is able to like freeze them in this like prison, which we did hear that about months ago. But Green Goblin manipulates Tom into freeing them, and then Strange is like, "Look, you're on your own," and then he dips, which is not really a Doctor Strange thing to do, honestly. So I'm kind of have questions about that, but it could be bullshit, or it could be that this guy is onto something and we just don't know the details. Um, so Did we learn anything new about the multiverse, how it's explained in the movie, and what does Doctor Strange do? It says right here, we didn't learn a lot of new stuff about the multiverse. Pretty much the spell works by borrowing parts of other universes' timelines where Peter's identity is still a secret. This is what I just told you guys. But when it goes wrong, it ends up merging other elements from the universes into the main MCU. It feels a bit confusing when I explain it, but it makes sense on screen, I promise. Any mention about Kingpin, Jessica Jones, or the other Netflix guys? No. Do we visit the Webb and Raimi verse and their cameos? At the very end, yes, we see Mary Jane happy and Toby's back and the embrace and they kiss. That's going to be a great scene for Raimi fans. And then daughter comes in and Toby gets down and hugs her. Andrew returns to college. There's also the final swing that cuts between the three Spider-Men in their own universes. So it's like they show a split screen of like the Raimi Spider-Man and Andrew, and then there's a swing coming towards the screen, and that's how the movie ends into the credits. That's a cool ending, and really a great way to handle these characters. So somebody asked, how are the villains handled? I'm assuming Gabi is the main Doc Ock redemption arc tainted. What is Andrew and Toby Spider-Man like encountering old foes? And as the final battle is epic as we hope, he says, The villains are handled pretty well. Goblin is definitely the main antagonist, but Doc Ock and Electro are also very important. Spider-Man are shocked when the villains to see the villains again, especially Toby with Doc Ock. The final battle is pretty fucking epic, but it focuses very heavily on Goblin and Doc Ock instead of balancing the five villains evenly, which makes sense because Goblin and Doc Ock are the oldest on-screen villains, so they're going to give them the big hurrah. This movie is probably going to be Alfred Molina's last huge blockbuster film before he retires from acting. Of course, I could be wrong on that, but him coming back to play Doc Ock is a big deal probably for his career. He's going to make a lot of money doing this, so this is like his last big goodbye. And he was a great Doc Ock at Spider-Man too. Villains all have pretty good chemistry. Is it true Green Goblin controls the villains via Stark Tech chips? Says no Stark, not Stark Tech, but yes, Goblin's manipulating the villains. Tell us something we don't already know. Electro being yellow is in fact explained. It's because he was overloaded by yellow electricity in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Think of yellow form as his Super Saiyan form. Now you're going down my alley, buddy boy. Is Petey's revered daddy Iron Man still prevalent in this Spider-Man movie, just like the other two? Yes, Doc Ock's tentacles are nanotech from the Iron Spider suit after he destroys it, so he upgrades the tentacles. And Tom has a line about wishing Tony was here to help him before the Spider-Men are introduced. Do you think there's going to be a Norman Osborn in the MCU? No, I don't expect to see MCU version of any of these villains. We might end up with Ned as Hobgoblin in the future. I don't know how he knows that about Ned Leeds being the Hobgoblin, but that could be something, man. You never know. Here's some big spoilers for you guys, okay? For like the final battle. Are Toby and Andrew defeating anyone, or is it just Tom show during the final battle? The Tom show. Toby defeats Ock, Andrew defeats Electro, Tom defeats Goblin and Lizard. And then apparently, from what I understand, Sandman sacrifices himself and has a redemption arc. They set up the main Spider-Man 3 with Andrew. I think it's possible, but not likely. Did they bring back the old themes from the movies? Yes, I teared up a bit hearing the Elfman theme. That's going to be awesome. I'm glad they put that in there. I think the only question that matters is, does it live up to the unprecedented hype? Does it fall short? He says it lives up to most of my expectations. Any issues I have is stuff that I overlook. I mean, I kind of wish that they had more Matt Murdock as Daredevil helping out and more Venom. I would have liked it if it was the three Spider-Men, Venom, and Daredevil against the five and villains 5-on-5, but this is the Spider-Man show. It says here there have been rumors that Miles Morales. Let me see where his answers are, because there's a lot of stuff here. Apparently, also Zendaya's MJ loses her memory. She doesn't die, but she forgets that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So the scene at the end of Far From Home is not really gonna apply anymore. Some of these responses are funny, yo. It's 4chan, man. What do you expect? I'm trying to get to the next part here. 'Cause these are all anonymous, so you gotta like know. Goblin tells Iron Boy that Spider won't send him back. Yeah, I don't think that's real. Nah, that's not real. Let me see. Okay, here we are. Here's the next big batch of spoilers. There have been rumors of Miles Morales would be from Andrew's universe, that they would show him at the end. Is that true? Not true. Low key, no low key. What does Doctor Strange do in the movie, and do you remember any lines of dialogue? He says Doctor Strange casts the spell. Peter doesn't shut up, so it goes wrong. Strange is kind of pissed, but helps him try to fix it quickly. Is able to contain the villains as he prepared to send them back to their home worlds. Goblin starts crying and is like, "Please don't send me back. We'll die if he does," which is true. They're gonna die in their home worlds. So Peter sets them free, and now Strange is extremely pissed. He and Peter fight. And Strange is basically like, "You're on your own now, kid." After that, we don't really see Strange until Toby and Andrew get sent back to their universes. That sounds weird to me that Strange would even do that, but again, we'll see. So he says, so Toby and Andrew remember the events from the movie, right? Strange doesn't erase their memories. Yes, the spell only affects those from the main MCU. How is the score? The score is incredible. I think I already mentioned this, but I teared up hearing Elfman's theme again. The VFX was mostly finished, but there were some moments, mainly in the third act, that were very rough. Let's see here. Okay, so Ned Leeds is killed by the Green Goblin, but we don't see a body, which makes me think they're going to bring him back as the Hobgoblin later on. Let's see here. The daughter of Mary Jane. They didn't say her name. Ned and Zendaya are the ones who locate Toby and Andrew initially. Zendaya doesn't have much interaction, but has a funny moment where she's confused at the repeaters. But how did they even know they were Spider-Man? That's I'm curious about that. Peter applies to MIT, and the woman is a representative of the school rejects him because he killed Mysterio. I did hear about that. Yes, Happy Hogan dies along with Aunt May. So it's a fresh start for the MCU Spidey while keeping the canon of the home trilogy intact. That's going to be sad, man. Seeing Happy die after going all the way back to Iron Man 1. Johnny Favs, man. It's going to be sad. This is going to be a sad movie, yo. She has brown hair, but it's lighter than Toby's. Toby's suit is covered in CGI. It looked touched up, but not completely covered in CGI. Does the final swing have each individual theme playing, and it has elements from all three? Yes. That's great, yo. Strange is mad at Peter after he sets the Spooky Five free and tells him that he's on his own. Tom uses his Spidey sense to deflect the pumpkin bomb. That's how I guess that's how Sandman, like how the Goblin dies. It's the Netflix costume for Daredevils, and Dia lives but has her memories wiped because of the spell. So this guy has given us a lot of information, yo. Like there's a ton of stuff here. One more batch here I'll go into with you guys. Again, I'm not sure if this is real or not, but it's interesting. There's a lot of callbacks to the Raimi and Webb movies. There's one line in particular that I really like where Tom and Goblin, but I know everyone else here will hate it. All right, it says here the Green Goblin's the main antagonist, and the reason why the Fearsome Five even team up. They really want you to hate him by the final act. That's gonna be great. Toby settled down a bit. He's still Spider-Man, but he's a father first. Andrew's still grieving over Gwen and is going to college. It's also confirmed the Lizard that Andrew kicked Rhino's ass. So now we know what happened at the end of Amazing Spider-Man. Andrew brings up fighting his version of Goblin after seeing Defoe for the first time. That's interesting. His version of the Green Goblin. Their respective themes play out. Two different moments. Okay, the question is, didn't you say Tom almost killed him, but he didn't die? But he didn't die. Didn't at the end. Now you're saying he ends up killing him anyway. Two different moments. The first one, Tom's John Walker moment. He just goes ape shit on Goblin and beats him within an inch of his life before Electro breaks Tom's focus. The second one is towards the end of the third act where he does kill Goblin, but not with his own hands. Yeah, because he shoots the pumpkin bomb back at him. That should be the last one. There's probably a couple more here, but okay, here's the last one we're going to go into today. Is there a conversation about Norman and Ock and how Norman is already dead in Ock's world? No, but that would have been a cool conversation. So that's interesting because remember, in Spider-Man 2, Norman's already dead. So they're pulling Norman from a different timeline after Spider-Man 2, before Spider-Man 2. Are the villains variants? No, they're from the Raimi and main Spider-Man versus respectfully. Well, they kind of are variants though, because remember, there's two Norman Osborns, maybe even more in the MCU. I mean, you never know what they're gonna pull out. It says here, from which point in time were the Sandman Lizard taken when they were about to die? That isn't made clear. Given the case, the Goblin, Electro, and Doc shortly after he dies. I assume yes. That's gonna be kind of a plot hole when you think about it if they don't explain that. Does Toby have a stubble like some leaks have said? No, he's clean shaven. Holland's Aunt May and not McGuire or Garfield. Yeah, Holland's Aunt May's the one that dies. He says, I'm not an insider, I don't know anything about a trailer. So, well, he is an insider. That we do know. Her death was gruesome. Explosion. So Aunt May dies via explosion. Um, there's a few heart-to-heart moments for sure, and Toby tells Tom the responsibility line before returning to the Raimi verse. So he does tell him, with great power comes great responsibility. The mid-credit scene is Venom, and how Kino will this film be? A few flaws, but all of them can be overlooked. Looks to be a big orgy for Spider-Man fans. What do you think about this, yo? I'm gonna close the video out now. We've been going for 20 minutes. So many spoilers here to talk about. What do you think? Overall, this sounds pretty good. This sounds like it definitely met my expectation, although I wanted maybe a little bit more. 2 hours and 45 minutes. This is the ultimate Spider-Man movie. They're going to go all out, balls to the wall. I'm telling you right now, it's going to make $1 billion. Even if half of this is true, it will. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and I'll talk to you very soon. Love you guys. Subscribe if you're new.